Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely pumped you're joining us today because we are diving headfirst into one of the most fascinating, high-stakes mechanics out there right now. We're talking about the TimeWoven item augmentation system over on the Immortal Realm Ultima Online shard. If you've ever spent literally hours meticulously crafting or hunting down that one perfect piece of gear only to feel like it's just another carbon copy of what everybody else is running around in, well, you are going to absolutely love this. We're breaking down exactly how this system works, the crazy power it unlocks, and of course, the truly terrifying risks involved. Let's get right into it.
To really get what we're looking at today, you have to understand the shard's core design philosophy. It boils down to this. Endgame character progression should produce items that feel personal, not just numerically better. That is a huge statement, right? It means that hitting 100 skill points and finally getting your hands on a runic weapon shouldn't be the end of your journey. Honestly, it's just the foundation. The devs wanted a system where all the blood, sweat, and time you pour into the game is permanently reflected in the gear you actually carry.
So that brings us to the million-dollar question. How do you make endgame gear truly yours? We've all seen this classic MMO problem. You hit the level cap, you grind out the final boss, you score the absolute best-in-slot item, and then you're standing in the main city square looking completely identical to 50 other players. I mean, where's the prestige in that? How do you stand out from the crowd? TimeWoven is the bespoke, highly customized solution to that exact problem. It's how you make your armor and weapons truly legendary and completely unique to your specific character.
Okay, Section 1, Beyond Basic Crafting. Let's talk about the augmentation layer.
First off, TimeWoven absolutely does not replace standard crafting or your runic tools. Standard crafting, gathering materials, burning through runics, that creates the foundation. It's like building the frame of a house. The TimeWoven system is layered entirely on top of that finished, high-value item. You take that beautifully crafted weapon, you add a single socket to it, and you infuse it with essence. That synergy is the whole point of the system. A pure crafter makes really good gear, but a crafter who masters the TimeWoven system, they're out there making absolute masterpieces.
Moving right along to Section 2, Sockets and Essence Explained, the Anatomy of Power. So, a TimeWoven socket is a single augmentation attached to your item. Now, I really want to emphasize that word single. There is strictly one socket allowed per item. You're not going to be stacking 5 different gems into a sword like you do in some other games. The strength of the augmentation doesn't come from having a bunch of sockets. It all comes from the tier value of that one single socket. And this socket brings 3 specific things to your item. The tier value, which gives you the actual buff, a Taint mutation, which we are definitely going to talk about in a minute, and a pre-infused snapshot. Okay, so how do you actually pull this off? Step 1, you buy Essence. But here's the real kicker. Essence is not a monster drop. You don't just farm it from champion spawns, and it definitely isn't some random crafting byproduct. It is deliberately tied to the playtime currency economy. You have to spend time tokens, which is currency you earn simply by dedicating your time to playing on the shard to buy this Essence. Step 2, you target your chosen highly valuable item, and Step 3, the socket attaches, immediately giving you your powerful new effect and your brand new Taint.
There is a very deliberate escalation of power and cost here. A Tier 1 infusion is relatively accessible, right? It only costs 10 time tokens, there's no rank requirement, and it gives you a solid modest boost, maybe 5% damage on a weapon or 3 extra resists on armor. But fast forward to Tier 3. To secure that massive 15% weapon damage and 7 bonus hit points, you need to make a serious investment. It'll run you 50 time tokens, and it requires you to hit order rank 3 or higher. It's a system that heavily rewards players who are deeply invested in the shard's faction systems.
All right, let's get into the heavy stuff. Section 3, Taints, the mutation cost. Ready for the ultimate plot twist? All 7 taints are strictly negative. Yep, you heard that right. There are 0 purely positive mutations. This is the hard, unavoidable truth of the TimeWoven system. Every single time you apply an augmentation to chase those massive tier-based stat boosts, you are 100% guaranteed a punishing mutation. It sets up this incredible, tension-filled risk versus reward scenario every single time you hit that infuse button. You constantly have to ask yourself if the incredible upside is really worth dealing with the brutal drawback.
What's honestly fascinating is the sheer variety of ways this system can completely ruin your day. Let's break some of these down. Brittle and antique mess with your item's durability and decay. It's annoying for sure, but manageable for some builds. But then look at diminished. If you roll diminished on a weapon, you just flat out lose 5 damage. Imagine doing a tier 1 infusion that only gave you a 5% damage boost, and a flat -5 completely negates the buff you just paid for. And don't even get me started on expendable. It makes the item incredibly heavy, and worse, it cannot be repaired. Ever. Once it breaks, it is gone for good. That fundamentally changes how and when you're actually willing to use that item in a fight.
We really need to clear up a massive misconception floating around the community right now. You might hear players bragging about rolling the prized Taint and celebrating like they hit the jackpot. But let's look at reality. Prize doubles the item's insurance cost, and it permanently prevents the item from ever being blessed. Internally, the game categorizes this as a negative attribute. So prized isn't actually a reward. It's simply the least bad negative attribute you can get, especially if you're a strict PvE player who doesn't mind shelling out extra insurance gold. But make absolutely no mistake, it is still a penalty.
Now, the system also throws in a really cool strategic faction bias. The math breaks down to a strict 50-50 split. When you roll for a Taint, you aren't just getting an even 1 in 7 chance across the board. If you belong to an order, the system splits your odds entirely. You have a 50% chance of rolling a Taint specifically themed to your order, and a 50% chance of pulling from the generic pool of 4 Taints, which means your faction allegiance directly and heavily impacts your crafting risks.
So the huge takeaway here is the exclusivity. If you're running with a college of surgeons, half the time you are risking malady exposure. If you join the Velvet Hand, you're rolling the dice on that terrifying expendable Taint where your gear can never be repaired. But consider the alternative. If you have no order whatsoever, you literally cannot roll the specialized Taints. Your mutation pool is entirely restricted to the generic 4, brittle, antique, diminished, and burdened. Meaning, you are completely locked out of getting the prized Taint if you aren't in the High Ledger order.
Okay. Let's lower your blood pressure a little bit. Section 4, the pre-infuse safety nets.
If your heart's been beating out of your chest just thinking about permanently ruining your best runic weapon, take a deep breath. You have an ultimate failsafe, the pre-infuse snapshot. The system automatically records the exact state of your item the millisecond before your infusion lands. This means if you are holding on to a master-crafted, incredibly rare runic weapon, you don't have to live in total fear of a catastrophic Taint destroying its viability forever. The system remembers exactly what the item was before you tampered with it. Here is exactly how you use that safety net. Step 1. The infusion lands and you immediately evaluate your Taint roll. Step 2. If it's completely unworkable, like let's say you rolled diminished on an item where you critically needed the raw stats, you just trigger the revert. Step 3, your base item is perfectly and fully restored to its pristine state. But of course, it's not a free pass. That essence you bought with all your hard-earned time tokens, that is completely consumed and gone forever. So, you lose the massive investment of the attempt, but you saved your irreplaceable base item. Honestly, it's an incredibly brilliant and balanced way to handle high-stakes crafting.
Let's wrap things up with Section 5, TimeWoven strategy and timing, mastering the system.
Time to open up the TimeWoven playbook. These best practices are absolutely vital if you want to survive this. First, do not, under any circumstances, augment your starter gear. This is a long arc system meant for serious investment, so hoard those tokens. Second, know your final endgame build before you even think about infusing. Third, you must plan to accept trade-offs. If you're the kind of player who cannot tolerate any negative side effects, this system just isn't for you. Fourth, always utilize that snapshot revert for your high-stakes items. And finally, keep a close eye on essence market prices. A lot of players actually farm time tokens just to sell the essence to endgame crafters. It's a massive economy all on its own.
90. A skill level of 90 plus is the golden rule for when you should actually begin engaging with the TimeWoven system. Before 90, you're still growing, you're still figuring out your template and your playstyle. But by the time you hit 90, you finally know exactly what stats you are missing and exactly what you need to optimize. That is the moment you strike.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to close out the explainer today. We've seen the incredible, unique, build-defining power of Tier 3 augmentations. But we've also seen the terrifying, permanent penalties of the Taint system. The tools are all right there in front of you. So, when you log into Immortal Realm tonight and look at your most prized, valuable weapon, are you willing to risk a crippling mutation for ultimate power? It's your gear, it's your legacy, and ultimately, it's your choice. Thank you so much for hanging out with me to unpack this amazing system, and hey, happy crafting out there!